Wave to everybody until we get started. See, I typically get started at 3:01 for your guys' info. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Hello to our audience out there. My name is David DiLorenzo of Association Analytics, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our virtual discussion series where we bring together leaders and learners each week in fun and engaging sessions aimed at optimizing business results and staying relevant in these challenging times. Today's session is about leveraging data to plan, execute, and measure association marketing strategies. We all know that marketing is critical to achieving our goals, and that marketing relies on data from other areas and provides data for our key business decisions. And today we're going to talk about your website as a central piece of your overall strategy. We're going to talk about how to make your website, make sure your website has clear goals, has a compelling message, encourages conversions, collects critical data, how to drive traffic to your website, key data to track and monitor, some marketing technologies, regardless of your association's size or budget. As always, a couple notes for our attendees. We are recording this session, so it'll be available on the registration site. If you've missed any previous discussions, the entire series is also available. And during the session, we want to hear from you. So please use the chat tool to connect with us, or use the Q&A button to submit questions for our panel. And speaking of our panel, it's time for me to introduce them. First of all, we have Rachel Clemens. Rachel's a former graphic designer and marketing agency owner, and she's now the CMO of Mighty Citizen, a branding, marketing, and digital agency for associations. Mighty Citizen helps their clients increase revenue, boost awareness, and better their communities. And as the Chief Marketing Officer, she spends her days promoting Mighty Citizen services and thought leadership. And she's also the proud parent of a son named Baylor and two pug mixes, Buddy and Biscuit. Rachel's joined by my good friend, Dave Martin. Dave's the Director of Marketing at the American College of Radiology. Previously, he served as Chief Operating Officer at High Road Solutions, as well as the Chief Marketing Officer at Aptify, where he grew Aptify's marketing and sales pipeline by 351%. Employing digital marketing best practices along with results-driven, data-centric approach. And before joining Aptify, Dave served as Vice President of Marketing and Content for the Electronic Retailing Association, ERA, for 7 years. In this role, he was responsible for all marketing activities for member acquisition, retention, events, and publications. So say hello, panel.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
We are going to talk a little bit. We're going to have our short little intro here, and then we're going to jump into association websites, get into measuring marketing progress, and then, as I mentioned, we're going to jump into some marketing technology. But first, we have a poll question that we wanted you to answer. And that question is, how has 2020 affected the marketing budget at your association? So you should see that popping up here in a second. And we'll give you a moment to answer the poll. And we're going to come back to that a little later with some of the results. Went too fast. So as if any of you have been on our weekly sessions, we definitely talk a lot about data analytics and all these programs. And what we've talked about and learned that there are many other systems that feed into Acumen as an analytics platform. That data is used to inform the marketing decisions and among others. Additionally, Acumen is looking at the inputs from the marketing systems, from web analytics systems, from social media, and other parts of your digital ecosystem as part of your overall analytics strategy. So when we think about that today, the things that Dave and Rachel are going to talk about, all of that data is typically being pulled together, going into a product like Acumen to be able to give insights and inform the decisions and the things they're going to talk about. And then the tools that they're using in their work also feed back into Acumen to help you drive other parts of your business. So with that, I think I am going to be turning it over to Rachel.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm Rachel. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. We're going to be talking about websites specifically for associations. And the reason we're talking specifically about websites is while they're not the be-all and end-all of your marketing, they are critically important to your marketing. Oftentimes, they're the first place people go to learn more about you. They do a heavy lift. They're really important. We put a lot of effort into them. And so we're going to talk about the key aspects for a successful association website and how you can make yours work harder for you. So with all things marketing, the first thing you do is you start with strategy, of course, and goals are essential to our strategy. And so you really want to think about what you're trying to accomplish with the site. Now, if your site is already a few years old, surely you did this when you launched that site. But I want you to go back and say, are the same goals we had for the site 2-3 years ago, the goals we have today? And so that may be different. And if so, and you don't have a redesign on your horizon, go back and look at your site and see what you needed, what you intended with the site, and see if there's anything you need to update. The goal of your site should be really obvious. When you land on a homepage, you should know what to do. So when your audience is landing on your homepage, or really any page of your site, keep in mind that pretty much 80% of your audience is going to come to your website, not from your homepage or not to your homepage. So make sure that they know what is expected of them when they land on the site. When you're thinking about the goals of your site, get buy-in from all of your stakeholders. If you're going to go back and reevaluate your website, get buy-in from all your stakeholders. This means potentially your leadership team. It means other departments, the education team, the programs team, membership, advocacy. Make sure everybody's on the same page about what the goal is trying to do, or what the site is trying to do. And I'll tell you, we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. Document your goals and how you'll measure them. Hopefully all of you have documented and written down your goals, but also what is the data that's going to tell you that you are reaching those goals? Look at the data you have now in your existing website and put measurements in place for how you will track those goals in the long term. And then we always say here at Mighty Citizen, think of your website as an employee. Ideally, your website is your best employee. It's never sick, never takes vacation. It only says whatever you tell it to say. It should be the premier employee of your marketing department. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a couple websites, and I want you to tell me, or you can put it in chat perhaps. Tell me what you think the goal of this homepage is. Let's see if I get any in chat here. I'll leave it here for a second. Okay, so the goal of this is to donate. That's right. And the way you know that is that nice big red donate button might as well be flashing up there in the top right corner. The only thing red on the page besides the logo is the donate button and the other call to action to donate on the home page as well. So this one, it's really clear what their goal is. Let's move to the next one. So tell me what the goal of this page is. I'll look for your comments in chat. And to the credit of this organization whose logo I have covered up, they have updated this website. So this is not their current website. Okay, some people are saying attend the conference, report a claim. Typically, when you land on this website, you do not know what you're meant to do. There are too many calls to action. There's multiple navigation items, multiple call outs. Someone said buy a toy. This is what often happens with association websites, and there's lots of reasons that it happens. And mostly it's cognitive load. It's the idea that we've got to put everything on our website. And so your job as the marketing team is to say no. And your job is to sacrifice for the greater good. So every department wants real estate on your website, and most of them want it on your homepage. But this is why you get their buy-in on the goals, so that later when they come and ask you to post something, you can say, you know, we all agreed on our goals, and this is not help with any of the goals that we have listed for our website, or at least not our priority goals, because your success and failure often depends on your users being able to navigate your site. Keep in mind, though, a lot of times people are coming to your site to learn about you, but most of the time they're coming to do something, to take an action. And so the ease with which they can do that can be success or failure for your organization. Okay, so we've talked about strategy and setting up our website for success, or maybe reevaluating our website for success. Let's talk about letting our heart lead and why anyone should care. Sorry, I think I skipped a slide. Yeah, so with your website, you have to make people care. People do not take action unless they care about something. So you want to make sure that your message is woven into your website's DNA. What impact is your organization having? Who do you serve? All those things need to be right there on the website. Think about all the different ways your users will discover you. As I mentioned, most people will not come in through your homepage, so you can't expect your homepage to do all the work. Other pages of the site have to have this message woven in as well. And of course, you want to tell stories that your users want to hear. So think about, you know, as associations, we have lots of great stories. We have stories of how we've changed members' lives, how we've made their lives better. How can you use those stories and showcase them on your site to show how you can do the same thing for other members or potential members? Many times our messaging is encapsulated in a hero message. And this hero message is primarily on the homepage. I'm going to show you guys some examples of this in a minute. But the hero message is a short, intriguing statement that captures the essence of what your organization does. It's not super flowery, though it should feel good when you read it. It's simple, it's compact, it's concrete. It just gives people a feeling right away about the importance of your organization and why you exist. So I'll show you a couple examples of this. The first one, oh, sorry, I went backwards. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. When you're thinking about content on the website, be thinking about the user's questions. So when you're thinking about what kind of content should live on your site, or you're evaluating the content that's currently there, think about the questions that your users come to your site with. And research, by the way, is a great way to uncover these questions. The first of which is, whom does your organization serve? Show this at a glance. This should be really apparent when someone lands on your site. Do I belong here is kind of the question they might be asking themselves. How are you improving the lives of your members? And you want to include a statement on the impact of your work. So for associations, this is really easy because you have advocacy work for the most part. So like, how is that advocacy impacting the lives of your members? And then how can I, as a user, participate with your organization, whether it's becoming a member, attending a conference, volunteering? You want to give users clear actions that they can take. So let's take a quick look at a couple of websites here. The first of which is actually for Boy Scouts. This is their homepage. And what I love about this site is that it immediately shows whom they serve. They serve youthful boys, so boys, you know, young boys. And so I can see that visually on the site when I land there. And then they also tell me the impact that they're having. So basically, some kids avoid obstacles, Scouts overcome them. So they teach young boys to overcome obstacles. That's what the Scouts are about. And then how can I participate? Boom, you got my button right there. I can join now. So a clear call to action, clearly their goal, number one goal for this page is to have people join. CASE is another example. So CASE's hero message is CASE advances education to transform lives and society. See how that feels important? It feels impactful. One thing they're not doing is sort of noting that it's higher ed specific, but they could answer that with a tagline or something. And I will note that their homepage, which is really nice, by the way, has multiple messages that kind of rotate through. And then what is the user meant to do? There are two clear, glowing CTAs here to join case, about the only things that are red on the page. You'll notice that I've mentioned that a couple times. One of the best ways to make your call to action really clear is with design, and designers, of course, can help with that. Okay, so we talked about goals. We talked about why anyone would care. Let's get to the nitty gritty of actual conversion. So converting with our forms. Obviously, your forms are critical. They are the connection between your users and their money. Most of our audiences are connecting with us online through forms, and so they're critically important. You want to keep them as simple as possible. We're going to take a look at some examples for this. And then notice what the private sector is doing. There's data out there about how much more quickly people move through an e-commerce process than they move through like a nonprofit or an association process. There's lots of reasons for that, but like they're spending so much money figuring out the process of getting people through forms faster. Let's steal from them. Let's take the investment they've made and see what we can learn from it as associations. All right. And then keep in mind too, and I'll show you an example of this a little bit later, keep research questions separate from the information that you absolutely need for someone to become a member, renew, or donate, or sign up for an education program, whatever that looks like. A lot of times we kind of have in our heads like, oh, this is my chance to find out everything I can about this member. But the truth is there's a lot of options for that later. So you want to get them through this form process as quickly as possible and make it as painless as possible on your users so that they will actually complete the form. Once you have their information, you can always come back and try to get this information later, whether it's through surveys or conversations or progressive forms where they come back later and fill out another form on your site, and your website's talking to your membership database and it's telling you, hey, here's the next question to serve to this audience so that we can get additional information on them.
Hey, Rachel, as you're talking about that, I thought, a little bit around some of that progressive as you're going through the forms. And then I think that's a very important part about just getting what you need. And I see far too many organizations put 100 demographic questions in there.
Right.
But like in our world in data, I know that you mentioned kind of progressive, and maybe a little bit of information on kind of that strategy of thinking through every interaction you have on your website is an opportunity to grab like a little piece of data and keep their kind of online profile up to date.
Yeah, you don't. Oh, sorry, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see this as much.
Go ahead.
You again. I was just going to say, you don't see this as much as I wish we saw this, where we have, for those of us that have great interactions between our membership database and our website, and they're talking to each other, and there's the push-pull of information between them. If I sign up as a member and I fill out your membership form, you've now got my information. You can ask me additional questions later via other forms when I come to your site. So say I then come and sign up for your conference. Well, when I sign up for your conference, you already know, if your website's talking to your database, you already know what you know about me. And you can tell that form to serve up additional questions that you don't know about me yet. And maybe these questions are prioritized. So you can say, okay, Rachel, what is your age, or how many years experience do you have in the industry? You don't have to ask me that question at membership, because you can ask it later. And you can get that information from me later, or any other kind of demographic or psychographic question that you want to ask me. Just know that you don't have to cram them all into that first form. People will be coming back later. If everything's going the way it's planned to, they will be coming back later, and you'll be able to get that information with the progressive form. Consider multi-step forms. So this is an example from American Library Association. With their form, the form starts with a simple email address. So you enter your email address. From there, you hit next, and you get the next step of the form. If you were to abandon the form in step 2, they have your email address. So they have the opportunity to reach out to you, ask you questions, see if you need help with your membership application. The beauty of multi-step forms is that you can see on the back end where people are dropping out of your process. So if you have a 3-step form and you have 90% of people that have made it through step 2, but only 70% of people that have made it through step 3, I can look at that and say, there's something wrong with step 3. Let me go do some testing to see how to improve the step 3 process. And so with any forms, I highly recommend A/B testing. That's crucial to the success of your forms, and it'll really teach you about making iterative improvements so that those little improvements add up to make your forms that much more efficient. Let's see. Include nudges in your form. So there are things called psychological nudges. Our brains are really wild in the way that they function. But the good news is, you know, with science, we've learned a lot about how our brains actually take shortcuts. And one of the shortcuts is looking for clues. And those clues are also called nudges. And so what that is just a psychological nudge. It sort of gives you a clue as to what other humans may be doing or what they may want you to do. So this is an example again from American Heart Association. I want you to notice under your gift, the dollar amounts. The $100 amount is pre-selected. And so that is the dollar amount that American Heart Association wants you to give. And for a lot of users, if they were thinking about giving close to that, they'll just leave it. It's already pre-selected. It kind of feels like the right choice. That's kind of how our brains work. You could also consider, you know, if you're an association that does have quite a few donations, and maybe your average donation is $50, maybe you pre-select $60. So you want to do something close that's just a little nudge up to what the average person is doing. Another nudge example from AARP in their membership form. This is the membership term. And so they actually start with a 5-year term and then go down to 3-year and 1 year. And the beauty of that is they're anchoring your expectations to the 5-year amount. So they're saying, hey, the 5 years, the first choice you see, it's $63. And then it goes down from there. And you'll see this a lot now that I've told you about it. You'll see it a lot as you're out and about, where they'll anchor you. People will anchor you with a high dollar amount and then offer you cheaper amounts. So they'll go for the big win. And that just kind of sets your mind to where 1 year for $12, that's a deal. I love it. Oh, I'm sorry. I think this bounced back. But one other thing with your forms is to make sure, this is from American Medical Association. They have a 4-step form. It's multi-step. One thing I want to point out here is that this form, this page, the only thing you can do on this page is fill out this form. That is by design. It's actually really important on your form pages not to have anything else if you can help it. No navigation, no text, just they're only there to do the one thing you want them to do. And that can really help with your conversions as well. So let's talk about a few things you can do today to improve your website. One is to put your thank you pages to work. A lot of times when people fill out forms on our website, whether it's conference, programming, membership, that thank you page looks like a receipt. And that's just very much a missed opportunity. People feel best when they've just taken action. And so you want to continue that good feeling. Here's a sample thank you page. It says, thank you, Amanda. So it's got that personalization because they know who she is from her forum completion. It says, learn how your membership is making a difference. See our advocacy results. So it's further pushing the mission and the impact of the organization. And then you'll notice at the bottom, it says, we want to learn more from you. What's your highest level of education? So again, they're getting that demographic, additional follow-up questions right there in the thank you page. So again, a progressive form. You can also give your site a 5-second test. This is really crucial to do on an ongoing basis, at least once a year, to kind of go through a process of some user testing where you're testing it with the 5-second test. And you might want to share this with prospects, lapsed members, people that maybe not necessarily members, they almost know you too well, but even like people like neighbors to see if I land on your site, can I quickly get what you're doing? And so those questions are, who does this organization serve and why should I join? That's what you're trying to get in 5 seconds. So I'm going to share with you guys some examples of some websites. I'm going to leave them up for 5 seconds. Feel free to put in the chat what you see in 5 seconds, and I'm just going to kind of start talking about them as well after that. But as a reminder, you're looking for who the organization serves and their impact. Oh, goodness. Okay, here's the first one. 5 seconds, go. All right, had a delay there, so you got an extra second or two. So who does this organization serve? Okay, most of you got CPAs, accountants, and certifications. What's interesting about that site particularly is that the name of the organization is really small up in the top left. So unless you are really looking for that, it can be easy to miss. And then why should I join? Nobody answered that in the chat. Somebody said water because that's the graphic. A lot of times people for that site will say purple. Which is okay because it's, that's branding and action. But really, as far as the impact this organization is having, it's not real apparent on the page. Okay, gonna serve up one more for you guys, and I'll invite you to put stuff in the chat as you see fit, and then we'll take a look. All right, go. Okay, who does this organization serve? Okay, so quite a bit more of you get that it's nurse practitioners. Some people are saying nurses, which is interesting because nurses are not nurse practitioners, and the nurse practitioners are very particular that they are nurse practitioners and not nurses, so that's interesting. And then why should I join? And that information is kind of in this area where it's like the whole patient care is a future. That's a conversation a lot of nurse practitioners are having, where they are really overseeing the full patient care, especially when patients have so many other specialists. And then also under that education item at the bottom, you can see they're improving access to medication-assisted therapy. So showing a couple things of value right there. And then you'll notice that join AANP button right there. That's the call to action. That's how you can participate. In full disclosure, that happens to be a Mighty Citizen website. Okay. So here's how you give your site the 5-second test. Show the page for 5 seconds, then cover it up and have your tester or your audience, your user, write down what they remember. And the important thing there is that they write down, without your interaction with them, what they remember about the site, and then read through their answer and see if it articulates the purpose of your page as you intended it. It often does not. Sometimes it's superfluous stuff, like it's purple, and that's actually okay, but if it doesn't also have your main goal and your main intention, then keep that in mind. You wanna make some changes there. Here's some other really quick and easy updates. Make sure you're using powerful professional images. The image of the nurse practitioner is of an actual nurse practitioner. We went and got photos of actual nurses. There's a study that shows that people just zoom right over, they kind of gaze over stock photos. We've gotten so used to seeing them. People kind of intuitively know whether they're real or not. So keep in mind that you might want to use your actual members.
With that in mind, Rachel, I have a question for you. So just, as you're thinking through some of these things, some of the updates and stuff you want to do and talking about design, do you use data to inform design? Like, are you looking at all these data points of what members care about or what drives conversions or emotions, so that you're actually letting data drive some of the design of the site and the homepage and these things you're talking about?
That's a great question. And so one of the best ways to let data drive design decisions is with A/B testing. So again, showing, maybe you want to test one image against another, or this person is the profile image or the hero image versus this one, or this messaging versus this messaging. Certainly data is a part of every key decision on a website, or should be. So yeah, definitely using A/B testing to test design, content, just about anything, forms, anything you can on the website is crucial. Okay, so other things we can do kind of right now, if your social icons are at the top of your page or prominently anywhere on your page, go ahead and move those to the footer. Most people do not click them. The numbers we have seen from all of our clients are like in the low single digit numbers for people actually clicking those. Go ahead and put them in the footer. People expect them there anyway. Save that valuable real estate for another place. Simplify your membership form. Make it as easy as possible to get through that form. Again, save questions that you can get later for later. I put a note here, don't require Mr., Mrs., and Miss unless you have a very particular reason about how you're going to use that information. A lot of times people just kind of include those things because that's what forms have. That's kind of how they think about it. But you do not have to have that if you're not going to do something with it. Improve your thank you page. I hope if I could see every thank you page be celebratory and leading people further into the site instead of just being expected to be an exit page, then I think my 2020 would turn around and the sun would come out. It would be a good day. And then I would be remiss if I did not mention accessibility very quickly, because you could do a whole session on this. Keep in mind that there are people visiting your website with disabilities, people that do not have, they're hearing impaired, have physical difficulties. So make absolutely sure that your website works for everyone. That's not only the human thing to do, but you can also get sued if your site is not accessible. And then summing it all up, make sure you're starting with strategy, write down your goals, figure out who has to have buy-in to those, and do that early so you don't create a Frankenstein website, and then how you'll measure them. Make sure that you're letting the heart lead, you're telling people why they should care, and asking them to take action based on that. And then with your forms, make small, smart, iterative improvements to lead to additional conversion. And really quickly, if you're interested in more, at mightycitizen.com/A2, we have a website evaluation kit that asks a bunch of questions to allow you to self-evaluate your association website, and then also a website performance guide, which goes into SEO and Google Analytics and ads and things like that, so that you can test or evaluate your website's performance. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you, Rachel.
Sure.
Tons of information. I think before we bring Dave on, we should be getting one of our poll question results. If Brian can push that out there. I'm going to have to move the slide one more, whoever's still in control.
Oh.
That's okay. So let's look and see, how has 2020 affected, and just a reminder, as we're looking at the poll results, it's 3:30, it's Thursday. So, if you need to grab a nice cold beverage, we like to always promote this as a happy hour and a fun time. And Dave's probably going to hit you with a fire hose worth of information here. So a good beer as you take that down and be good for you. It looks like we had, let's see, 37% had a decrease in marketing budgets in 2020. 39% no change. Only 8% increased. That's interesting. I'm assuming some of that has to do with the current state of affairs, but all right, that's good. So I am now going to turn it over to Dave to take us through the second half of the session today.
Awesome, thank you, Dave. It was great, Rachel. I really enjoyed listening to you give that presentation. So let's go to the next slide here. So perfect, as I'm beginning here, talking about marketing budget, 39% no change, that surprised me a little bit. 37% a decrease, that didn't surprise me. 8% increase, great. 16% didn't know. So interesting numbers. The key thing about the times that we're in right now with COVID-19, the pandemic, is we need to consider and focus on maintaining a marketing budget, if not investing. So organizations that invest, and there are multiple studies, whether it's McKinsey or Boston Consulting or Gartner, organizations that invest outperform those that don't in a downturn. So they come out of a downturn much stronger than those that cut. And think about it as cutting can be undercutting, right? So it can undercut your strategy. If you start to say, if you're fighting this battle right now and executives are saying, we've got to cut the marketing budget by 10% or whatever it is, that can be incredibly undercutting to your strategy and what you're trying to accomplish. So we need to balance this concept of cutting costs with investing to grow tomorrow. I recognize that 37% here said there was a decrease, right? So there's, even if you have to cut, and these are extraordinary times, think about that balance, and focus on spending smarter, right? Streamline products and services. Look at getting rid of poor performers. In a downturn, it's much easier to get political consensus and surgically trim a budget. And you can look at what isn't performing well, what hasn't historically performed well, but was someone's pet project. What are some of low yield tactics that we're doing and have done that we can stop doing so that it's having less of an impact on our marketing. So spend smarter if you're forced to cut. And then, sorry, it's a little bit of a delay with the mouse. Make data-informed decisions. And that's one of the key things you'll hear me talk about over and over whenever I do speak is really I'm a data-centric, data-driven marketer and a techie, nerdy marketer and looking to always make data-informed decisions. It'll allow you to, if you know what works and what doesn't, it'll allow you to reallocate your marketing spend. Maybe you've spent historically a lot of money and have continued to spend money on print. Maybe this is a time to consider reallocating some of your print dollars into digital marketing spend as an example. So it's a good opportunity to reallocate. So also I want you guys to think about this is many associations and for-profits as well, marketing is seen as a cost center, right? A cost to the organization. So it's typically where, executives will go to cut budget, but it's not really, and especially at associations, it's a revenue center, and we need to see our marketing teams and our marketing departments as generating revenue for the association, not necessarily just being a cost to the association. We don't just make pretty things, right? So here's an example. Here's some association products: membership, events, publications, CME, credits, lots of products that we're selling. Many times, especially at smaller associations, you may not have dedicated sales staff, right? It's the marketing team that's working with different departments to drive revenue. And so you have to embrace the fact that you sell stuff, and sales is not a dirty word, right? So focus on being a revenue center. Don't think of yourself as a cost center. Promote yourself internally. Show data to show where you're driving revenue. And you're going to have a lot more success holding on to that budget. And for those 39% that had no change, hopefully you're using data to justify your spend. Another thing I heard recently in a webinar at the end of last year is no money, no mission. So it's going to be really hard to support the mission of your association if you don't have money and you don't have a marketing budget. And I've gotten pushback over the years about the size of marketing budgets. The American College of Radiology is a huge organization. We're $125 million a year annual budget. So we have a larger budget for marketing. But when I was at the Electronic Retailing Association, we were a $5 million a year budget, annual budget, not marketing, annual budget. And I had $250,000 a year to spend on marketing. So if you don't have money, it's going to be really hard to continue to promote your mission and what your association does. So what's a realistic marketing budget? You got to prove initially the value of marketing activities, as I've been saying, in order to be able to protect and grow your budget. Number one, so you got to have data to be able to do that. You can't just talk to it, you have to have examples. At ACR last year, we did our first paid digital advertising campaign using LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we did an experiment of about $5,000. To see how it would go. It turned out, it was for renewals. It was a renewal campaign. Turned out we ended up spending about $19 per renewal to generate $1,200, right? And we continued to do that and drive that campaign because if it costs you $20 to generate $1,200, you'll do that all day long. But there are certain diminishing returns in digital advertising many times. So it's always good to start, do an experiment, but have the data to prove it. And in this current fiscal year, we were able to put in a large amount of money into digital advertising spend. So what's a general rule of thumb? Really high level, if you don't really know what your marketing budget is, or it's split up across multiple departments, a general rule of thumb is about 5% of revenue for a slow growth, mature organization, not including your staffing costs. So your salaries and overhead costs and things like that. So when you look at that, you'll see a total annual budget of about $2 million. So a small association, you should have a marketing budget of around $100,000, going all the way up to a $10 million a year budget having about $500,000. So this will give you some guidelines of what you should be expecting, but that you need to be able to justify it with reporting and data and results. So let's, whoa, sorry about that. It's a little, I saw that Rachel was struggling a little bit with the mouse too. So sorry about that. I clicked it and it jumped ahead. So if we're focusing on how to drive traffic to our website, essentially, right? So is this you? Are you the person with the bullhorn here, screaming at essentially at your members and your prospects, trying to get their attention, and are your members looking at you like that? Or are you got a fire hose? Are you spraying and praying your members and prospects, trying to get them to attend your annual meeting, trying to get them to renew? Spray and pray is not a marketing strategy. It's easy to do, and you need to be much more targeted. So we need to change the conversation. You need to start out, what is your business strategy? Like Rachel was talking about, what are your goals, right, for the website or your business, your organization at a high level? What are your goals and objectives for the marketing team? Focusing on outcomes, right? Like what outcomes are we trying to drive? And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Also, what analysis have you done? What data do you have to support your strategy and where you should be spending your money? Then we can start to create a marketing strategy. But you need to have that overall strategy, your goals, analytics, to be able to start to develop a marketing strategy. So how to drive website traffic, back to that. There are many different ways to do this. We could be focused on SEO and driving organic search traffic. So we've got what Rachel was talking about before and all the really interesting examples that she gave and insights on how to build a better website. We've got that in place, let's say. Now we're trying to drive traffic there and get people to fill out those forms. So we could be doing organic search traffic. That's when people are looking you up in Google and using search engine optimization techniques to get more of that traffic. You could be doing paid search like we were doing at ACR and continue to do, or paid social media ads, email marketing, organic social media posts. Links, backlinks from other websites, because it shows Google that you're an authority in the space when you've got more backlinks to your website. So you could focus on a strategy of backlinks, and then of course creating relevant content, articles, blogs on your website so that people are finding that content when they're doing search. So there are many different ways to pull website traffic into your website. So, and the concept essentially is, instead of that megaphone that you saw in that a couple slides before, now you're marketing with a magnet, right? You're pulling people in, you're using better digital marketing techniques. You're probably using a little paid advertising, along with being smarter about creating relevant content that people find through search. And you're pulling them in with a magnet, not a megaphone. All right, let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about your MarTech stack. And MarTech stack is just a fancy term for the ecosystem of marketing technologies that you put together and connect so that you can be smarter and be more effective in your marketing. So in general, associations are behind, right? Our for-profit brothers and sisters focus on marketing technology and data. They have a heavy focus on digital marketing, conversion, like Rachel was talking about before. You're driving people to the website. You got to convert them in one way or another so you know who they are. The conversion allows you, when they fill out that form, to drop a cookie, and then you have better insights when they come back on next time. What pages are they going to? What information are they consuming? So we're behind still. Sales, and we're behind again in that sales is not a dirty word, right? Like sales is really important, and marketers need to see themselves, especially at associations, as driving revenue, right? And not just being a cost center. And then we need to build that MarTech stack, connect data so that we're making informed decisions instead of allowing opinions to drive our strategies. So check this out. This is, I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is a guy named Scott Brinker every year does the marketing technology landscape. And back in 2011, I've been following him since probably about that time, 2011, 2012. He has a blog. His website is chiefmartech.com. He actually works for HubSpot now. They hired him on because they were smart. In 2011, there were about 150 marketing software products, marketing technology software products out there. And in the latest one, which came out, I think it was in April of this year, there are now over 8,000, right? 8,000 software in many different areas, right? That encompasses lots of different areas from search to social media to marketing automation to platforms. There's webinar event software, lots of different stuff, but it's grown tremendously over this period of time. And where before it was mostly enterprise, it's now gone down market. So you've got a lot of technology available to small associations. So the key concept here is you need to start with your CRM and your marketing automation platform, right? I'm a big proponent of marketing automation platforms. They've gotten so inexpensive now, and I'll show in a minute that if you're just doing email marketing, you're not really doing marketing in this century, right? You really need to look at and I'm not talking about email automation either. I'm talking about marketing automation. So allowing you to create triggers within your platform that can be based on email. It could be based on content that's consumed. It could be based on events that are attended. It could be based on how someone interacts with a digital ad maybe you've got. So you start with the CRM, and I used to work for a legacy AMS product at Aptify. The future is very clearly moving towards Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. And in our world, Salesforce plugins, AMS plugins to Salesforce are tools like Fontiva or Nimble AMS, which at ACR we're moving from Personify to Nimble AMS. Right now we're in that process. And there's companies like Altai Systems that does a plugin for Microsoft Dynamics. So if you start there, and there's other tools like Impexium that have started new ways, or Wicket.io, they're doing some interesting things, but there's a lot of, when you want to build that ecosystem, there's a lot of tools right now that connect, everybody wants to connect to Salesforce and Microsoft. So when you connect that then with tools like HubSpot or Pardot, which was purchased by Salesforce a couple of years ago, or Marketo. We use Marketo at ACR. These are more mid to upper range size for organizations and associations. But now those 8,000 that we talked about before products, now there's a bunch of marketing automation platforms like Autopilot or ActiveCampaign or Ontraport. And even Constant Contact has gotten into the game. Instead of just sending emails, now they're creating lots of features that are rich in automation. So there's no reason for anyone not to be using a platform, a marketing automation platform, and I highly recommend considering as a CRM, and I know it's a big move, Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. I went backwards somehow. I don't know. Sorry about that. Here's a concept, the rise of the SaaS platform. So here's why I'm talking about this. HubSpot has an app partner program. They've got over 250, I think, different apps that connect. They have connectors that all you have to do is plug in an API key. If you have a Wistia video platform account and you got a HubSpot account, you copy the API key from Wistia and you pop it into HubSpot, and it literally connects it. It does an integration, the types of things that used to take 3 years in the association world. You can do it within minutes. You can create in a day an ecosystem of products and be able to connect to the data and bring it in. And why I say SaaS platform is because they're SaaS products, but platforms like HubSpot, they want to be the center. They want to be the hub. And so instead of just being a product, they're making it easy to connect other products, and they're now creating a platform or an ecosystem or a MarTech stack, however you want to talk about it. Another example here is ActiveCampaign. They've got a number of very similar to HubSpot in the amount of integrations that you can do very easily.
Hey Dave, while you're on that and thinking about that MarTech stack, and these are tons of systems. I would have a question. Maybe the audience might be thinking too. talk about the value of creating that stack that's going to feed all the other tools in the digital ecosystem that maybe marketing is not in charge of, and how you work with the other departments to ensure the stack is meeting needs or able to work with other tools that the organization is using.
Yeah, that's a good one, especially for us at a larger association. We're 500 people, and there are lots of departments that may go off and get their own SurveyMonkey, their own GoToWebinar, and then now we put in Marketo about 6 months ago, and we're trying to connect stuff, and there are multiple accounts. It makes it really hard. And so it also, you start to partner really closely with IT, and IT needs to be able to work within the organization to kind of get those rogues, like those people that go off and are getting buying it through their own budget. They need to be, so you start to centralize marketing budget, you start to centralize IT budget, and because the marketing technology stuff is so important, so much of it's gone into the marketing place that you have to have a really strong partnership with IT in particular. But you can have people going off and doing stuff, and it makes it much harder to connect. But for smaller organizations, it's going to be much, much easier. So this is our MarTech stack as an example. We've got, you can see all the lines. These are connections, these are integrations that are coming back. So SurveyMonkey is connecting to Marketo, which is in the middle. It's used for our email marketing here as well. We're connected to Salesforce and Sitecore. We're connected to Google Ads. We're connected to Wistia from a video platform. And Crazy Egg from a conversion UX design perspective. And so we're bringing together data from one place, and Zoom webinars as an example. We all do a lot of webinars. We got to be able to bring that data back into one place to make informed decisions. So this is what our MarTech stack looks like, and this is why you want to be able to connect your data. So why do I need it? Increase membership renewals and retention. Increase event registration. If you know that if you integrate your webinar Zoom with HubSpot or Marketo, and you're able to, we've got a whole program, essentially we'll just clone every time we do a webinar that's got multiple emails that are promoting it. Maybe it's the day of another email, then there's a follow-up emails afterwards that are for those that attended, those that didn't attend. We've also have a landing page where the registration for Zoom is on the landing page, not sending you to Zoom and then having the emails go out of Zoom. We're controlling it, our brand is controlling the look and feel of it. And so by being able to be smarter and quicker and pulling the data together, we're able to see increased event registration. Same with attracting new members. When you're pulling data in, being able to understand which new members are hitting your site, if you've converted them, what pages they're going to, what content have they downloaded, what events have they registered for, and those could be triggers, either that lead score them, and then you say, this person is really engaged, maybe our membership team should reach out to them, or they're really engaged and we're going to send a nurture campaign after that to try to get them to become a member. So it's a really interesting way to be able to pull all kinds of their digital footprint, that how they're interacting with you to make decisions and be smarter about your marketing. You could inspire an active membership through better understanding how your members are interacting with you, cross-sell and upsell of products. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do, but you're essentially moving from a cost center to a revenue center. And that's really what I've been talking about today that's so important. The more that you can justify and show the impact and back it up with data, the more likely you're going to be part of that 39% that had no change, or the 8% that saw an increase in their budget. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water. See if I can get this to advance. Not sure. Come on. Dave, I'm having a little challenge moving to the next slide. Hang on, I'm gonna, oop.
It's always fun when this happens, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah,
All right, give me 1 second. I'll pull you back up, Dave, here.
no problem.
Let's see.
Maybe while he's pulling that up, I could ask a question from the audience for you, Dave. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
sure.
here it is. I'll let you finish.
Let's see if I can, I got to request remote. All right, let's see if this works now. I assume there are more slides after this.
Yeah, there are.
Can you maybe go forward? If you take back.
Yeah, Bill, let me just run it from here. I'll share my screen. Go ahead and hit escape.
Yeah, aren't that too many slides? I'm going to kind of bang through them.
Okay, hold on.
The next thing I wanted to talk about was just show you guys, Rachel, unless you had a question.
Oh, I was just going to ask a question from the audience.
Yeah.
So Todd asked, do you recommend out of the box for software whenever possible, as opposed to customized work within software of stacks to maintain a high level of fault tolerance?
So associations are not in the software business. That's my strong belief in that. We see it all the time that associations should be focused on the governance of their membership and supporting their members, not developing software. I think that's a mistake. I think you can always find, in particular in the marketing side, there's plenty of software out there of those 8,000 where you can get what you need. So I really don't think it's a good idea, especially when the people that build it may leave and then nobody really knows what happened.
Yeah, exactly. We see that with client websites where, we start asking questions and they're like, I have no idea. And it's because someone's left, right?
Right, exactly. And there was no documentation.
No documentation.
Hey, Dave, I'm ready to roll when you are, buddy.
Oh, sorry, I requested control, sorry.
Oh, I'll just run them if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the next slide.
Yes, awesome. My stack. Okay, so let's look at some example MarTech stacks and costs here. So we're going to look at a small association and a mid to large. And this isn't comprehensive, but it gives you an idea what you can put together. Small association, you might use a tool like ActiveCampaign. Annual cost about $1,500 a year. That's your marketing automation platform. You could connect that with Hootsuite for social, search metrics for SEO, SmartLook for website user behavior, Wistia for video, Zoom Webinar for webinar. You're looking at an annual total cost of about $5,000, right? Or a little more than $400 a month. I think even for a small association, you should be able to find that kind of money to be able to put together an ecosystem of tools like this to make you better and smarter and automate a lot of things, which will save you time and money in the end. With a mid to large association, you could use a tool like HubSpot at about $18,000 a year. It all depends, a lot of them, on the number of contacts you have. So if you have a huge number of contacts, that price is going to go up. And I think I base this on like 50,000 contacts or something like that. So similar products, Sprout Social for social, SEMrush. These are some a little bit higher end, a little bit more feature set with some of these, and they're going to be more expensive. And you're looking at about $25,000 a year or $2,000 a month, right? That is doable. All of any marketer with a budget today should be able to fight for. If you're a small association with a $2 million a year budget, you're going to have $100,000 in marketing spend. If you can't spend 5,000 or 5% on MarTech, that's either a lack of vision or something is just missing there. Right, Dave? So what are we going to measure? I think there was a question earlier about this in the chat. There are 10 KPIs typically that I suggest that association staff look at. Dave, you can go ahead. Oh, sorry, I went to the wrong slide. That's fine. So one thing when I talk about data and looking at analytics is focusing, especially for marketing, is focusing on outcomes over outputs. Lots of times marketers have their checklist and they do a campaign and they're just going down and they're checking it off, doing all the things they need to do, right? You need a checklist, but if you're only focused on that checklist, then you rinse and repeat and go on to the next thing. You need to focus on what's the outcome of this campaign you're trying to drive, and then be focusing on that data and having some KPIs to help you measure it. So is this you? How much traffic do I have to my website? What is the ROI of my marketing spend? What is the landing page conversion rates? How many registrants do I have for annual, right? This could be you, and you may be asking these questions because you don't have analytics or insight into your data. I read this a couple years ago, and it's just stuck with me ever since. If you're not measuring, you're not marketing, right? Because you should be able to measure today. You should be able to have good analytics tools that help you measure. So if you're not measuring, you're not marketing. Another one from a guy named Lou Gerstner, the next slide, he turned around IBM back in the 90s when IBM almost fell apart. And he said, one of the things I took out of the book that I read about it, which was called Who Says Elephants Can't Dance, is people will do what you inspect, not what you expect. So if you have KPIs and you're holding people accountable to measurement, they're going to start, and you're looking at that data, they're going to start looking at that data, I can guarantee you. And instead of just you expect that they're going to look at it. Now, they're going to do what you inspect, not what you expect. So what are 10 KPIs that everyone should be measuring? Website traffic, that's pretty straightforward. New contacts, how many new contacts are you generating on your website? What's your visitor to lead ratio? So that basically tells you how good is your website at turning a visitor into a lead and turning someone that's anonymous into someone who now is known because you got them to fill out a form. And then as you go through the membership life cycle, that lead to member ratio, how good are you at converting someone who's become a lead into becoming a member? That's another key metric to look at. A membership life cycle, we're doing something right now about better understanding through digital activities along with offline activities, how engaged, unengaged, engaged, and how many advocates do we have? And so we want to have a better idea how many of our members aren't doing anything in that first year. Who are the people that are unengaged? Who are the ones that are at most risk of not renewing their membership? And on the other side of it, advocates, who are the people that you could maybe rely on because they're consuming a lot with your organization, they're attending events, right? They're going to webinars, they're downloading content. Landing page performance, you want to know how your landing pages are, what your conversion rate is on your landing pages. It's a critical number to look at. If you've got a blog, you want to look at subscribers and blog traffic. Organic search is always important because it says how much good content do you produce within a keyword phrase or just keywords themselves that people are searching for. Are you getting found, and are they coming to you from Google? Keyword ranking, if you're looking at this is SEO type tool that you can put in place that'll tell you if there are specific keywords in your industry. Do you rank for these? Are you showing up on the first page of on the SERP or the search engine results page? Do you show up on page number 1 there? Because if you don't, you're toast basically. And then the last one are inbound links that talk about authority, and the more inbound links you have, the more you're going to rise up the Google results pages. So these are just 10 KPIs you could be looking at. And then you got to have dashboards. You have to be able to visualize this easily. And so here's an example of Acumen Association Analytics tool. And membership overview. You might know how many total current members do you have? What's your retention rate? I look at the one that's got the red, like those red on the examples Rachel showed earlier, because this fictitious association here, right? But because it's an example dashboard, they got some problems here because they got all that red there in that one membership life cycle. They got a lot of members being dropped, and I can really quickly see what's going on, look at trends, drill down, and be able to react. So if you're not measuring, you're not marketing. Email overview, we saw this one a little bit earlier. This one's pretty cool because it shows you open rate by campaign. You can see the regional meetings had a 43% open rate, but government affairs had 22%, right? So it can give you an idea of what's working, what isn't working, where do you need to spend your time, what do you need to improve. So,
You made it.
yeah, did I? I went over by a couple minutes. Sorry about that with the.
That's all right. We got some people hanging in.
With our tech. So, if you look at your budget, how to drive traffic, your MarTech stack, and then once you're converting people and all that, what are you measuring? You're going to have a lot of success.
That's great. Tons of info there, Dave, from both you and Rachel. And I said, I think we have everybody hanging in. We might ask like one question. and this ties to kind of both of you. So in the era of kind of privacy and concerns and thinking about all these things you want to grab and measure and influence, what advantages and disadvantages do you guys see in the increased personalization and content and things that we're talking about as we're using all this data to deliver messages, to deliver marketing, and that just, that growing kind of concern over how much information is too much information and all these tools that you guys are talking about?
It's interesting being a marketer in this time because I feel myself torn just on my own, meaning like I appreciate privacy. I don't want the companies I interact with knowing everything about me. And yet as a marketer, I'm like, I want to know everything about you. Right? So, but I think the writing's on the wall about what's coming. I mean, GDPR, in Europe, and then New York with their laws that are coming in California. I think we as marketers need to be prepared for the fact that eventually we're gonna have to have a lot more what's the word, requirements about what we're able to collect moving forward.
Yeah, and some of the tools that I talked about there too, I've made it much easier, like HubSpot, ActiveCampaign, Marketo have made it much easier to manage the privacy and show that as an organization, you're being smart about it, that you're making it flexible, and it's not just on and off completely sometimes, right? The Marketo's got we're still going through some of the GDPR part of it, but it's got a lot of feature set that allows you to get granular and get really smart about how you put up the message, what options you give people, a lot of stuff like that. So the tools are getting smarter too, that give people, but most of the time, I don't know about you guys, if it's like, click here to accept cookies, I don't think I've ever not clicked it.
Right.
And I'm not saying
I'm
not saying that's right, because there's a lot of bad stuff that happens with people stealing data and stuff like that. But
I click no sometimes just to see what'll happen, Dave, because that's just the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, I don't think it's, some people say like some of the stuff that we're talking about is creepy. It's Big Brother, that kind of thing. It's just smart, where you can and where someone is okay with you being able to get access to that information and what they're doing. It just makes you smarter. And if anything, if you're smarter and you present more content to them, because we have radiologists and maybe someone's interested is an interventional radiologist, but yet I'm still sending them in the old school way, all kinds of information about the association, instead of just being smarter about, I understand who they are better now. I'm gonna stop all those other emails, for example, and I'm just giving them that one newsletter about interventional radiology, right? Like, so it goes both ways.
My guess is if I asked it,
I was just gonna say at its best, the kind of data we're able to collect makes us better marketers, right? Like at its best, we're actually helping people to get the information they actually need and want, but they don't always see it that way.
My guess is if I asked the panel of cybersecurity folks instead of marketing people, I'd get a different answer. But
oh yeah.
All right. Well, we've definitely gone over time a little bit, so I do want to thank our panelists and the audience for staying with us, and great comments and chat throughout. We really hope you guys can join us in the future for more of these discussions. It's great. It's a lot of fun to bring people together and have good chats and open conversations. And we even have technical difficulties, but we overcome them all the time. And just remember, this is a recurring meeting. So if you register for one event, you have access to all the future events, and you get a weekly reminder about how to add that to your calendar. And there's always descriptions of our upcoming events on our website, associationanalytics.com/virtual. If you're unable to attend a future event, just jump on and watch one of the recordings. We do record everything. And next week, if you're interested, our next installment, we're going to be diving into one of my favorite topics, best of breed data ecosystems, with a dream team from the Delcor Consulting Group. So we're going to have a great discussion and have a good time with that. And hope to see you guys there. Thanks again for a fabulous discussion. If you took me up on my offer, then I hope your minds are full and your cups are empty. And I hope to see you next week, and you guys have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. My cup's going to be empty pretty soon, actually, once I get home.
Well, cheers to you.